Hey, do you crave the approval of others? Do you fear rejection? That is all about the fear of man, and I have a remedy to overcome that fear. Let's talk about it. Barry Smith here, a pastor of 25 years and an author of a church planting book about failure. I am the authority on mistakes. Just saying. What I'm going to share with you today, if you watch to the end, will not only help you with your fear, it will give you renewed strength and power to have confidence and not care as much about rejection and the acceptance of other people. And if you're new here, be sure to subscribe, hit the bell, so that you hear every part of this 4-part series. I remember being really irresponsible as a kid, of course, not now. And my mom would say, "Wait till your dad gets home." And I would be scared all day long. As a kid, I was scared about what my friends thought of me. As an adult, I fear how I come across online. I've stewed for days knowing that a tough conversation was coming up, and I'm wondering, will I lose a friend over this? Will people leave my church over this, the church that I pastor? I'm telling you, people scare me. We've all got fears, particularly in relationships. Anybody fear what others think of them?
Yeah.
Yes, you do. It's why we wore bell bottoms and MC Hammer pants back in the day. And it's probably why many wear skinny jeans today. Why else? Imagine if someone trashed your reputation with a false rumor, or what if you were bullied on social media with more lies? We especially fear burglars and bad guys. We don't want someone breaking into our house. Imagine if they broke in and hurt one of your children. It's why we lock our car doors. It's why we get alarms for our houses. It's why we carry pepper spray and guns and get insurance. But all of that comfort is a lie that we've bought into. And there's an unbelief behind all those lies. Not an unbelief in God. I get it that most of you believe in God. But we're not believing the truths about God. And that's the 4 G's, like we learned last time, that God is great, so we don't have to be in control. God is sovereign and in full control of the universe as well as the little things in our lives. Today, this is your message in a tweet. If you don't get anything else out of this message, get this one. It's the 2nd G of God. God is glorious, so we don't have to fear others. God is glorious, so we don't have to fear others. Leaving my church plant in California was difficult, and it ended kind of weird in a veiled way. Nothing horrible, but it set me up to look bad. And I wanted everyone to know the whole truth, at least my truth. Why? Because I didn't want people to think bad of me. I didn't want people to think that I might have done a bad job. I craved the approval of my friends. It was a struggle, all based on the fear and a lie about God. These fears are created in the gap of unbelief between our heads and our hearts, where what we know to be true in our heads is not lived out in the actions of our hearts. That gap of unbelief causes us to fear others. We fear others because we don't believe truths about God. And the biggest reason that we fear others is because we have a fear of not being accepted. Now, you may not think so, but it's true for so many. We desperately want to be accepted, to be valued. In other words, we crave the approval of others, to be desired. It's why many gals wear makeup. It's why guys suck in their guts. Can you tell me where the gym is? Is it over there? It's why we wear flattering clothes that make us look better than we really are. It's why we try to make our parents proud of us. It's why we try to be validated by our peers at work, because when people approve of us, we feel accepted, and acceptance is probably the biggest reason that we seek approval. Stated another way, we fear others' disapproval. None of us want to be rejected by others, especially those we care about. But here's the problem. If this need in our life grows too big, the need for acceptance, then people control us because we need their acceptance. And the Bible calls that the fear of man. And that's why we picked Proverbs 29:25 as your memory verse for this week. Memorize this verse, Proverbs 29:25. It says, "Fear of man will prove to be a snare, but whoever trusts in the Lord is kept safe." According to Ed Welch in his book, When People Are Big and God is Small, the fear of man has many symptoms. Susceptibility to peer pressure, need something from a spouse, a concern with self-esteem, being overcommitted because we can't say no, fear of being exposed, small lies to make yourself look good, people making you jealous, angry, depressed, anxious, avoiding people, comparing yourself to others, and the fear of talking about Jesus. I'm guessing there's something in that list that touches a nerve in you. The fear of being exposed, self-esteem, comparing yourself to others, can't say no, so you're overcommitted? Come on now. You know that something applies there. And it's all a lie of the fear of man. We're not believing a truth about God that overcomes all of that fear. Culture tries to overcome this unbelief by boosting our self-esteem, which makes things worse because if we do something and find a way to help our self-esteem, then we become dependent on whatever it was or whoever it was that boosts us up. Or we elevate good desires like affirmation and respect, and we relabel them as needs, where we're not whole or complete without them. We become obsessed with needing the approval or acceptance of others, and then we're controlled by them because of the lie of fear. The answer to the fear of man is the fear of God. We need a bigger view of God. Isaiah 33:6 says this, "He will be the sure foundation for your times, a rich store of salvation and wisdom and knowledge." The fear of the Lord is the key to this treasure. The fear of God means that we respect, worship, trust, and submit to Him. That's the proper response to His glory. God is glorious, so I don't need to fear others. We fear God's glory, His holiness, power, love, goodness, and wrath. Think about people's response to just angels in the Bible, knowing that those angels reveal just a glimpse of who God is. At Jesus' birth in Luke 2, the shepherds were terrified and afraid. Luke 1, Zechariah heard his old lady was pregnant by an angel. Well, I mean, she wasn't going to get pregnant by the angel, but he heard through the angel say it anyway. He was startled, gripped with fear, and afraid. Luke 1, Mary was greatly troubled and afraid at Gabriel's announcement of her pregnancy. Luke 24, at Jesus' tomb, the women bowed down in fright. Matthew 28, at the empty tomb, the guards were so afraid they shook and were like dead men. That's the initial response when we get just a glimpse of God's presence, of His glory, of His weight. God is glorious, so we don't have to fear others. Just Him and His weightiness. See, that word glory means weight, as in a person's importance. A weighty person, they matter. Just like the last time we saw God's greatness, that God is great and His full weight, He's in full significance, He's full control, all of His majesty, splendor, wisdom, power, compassion, grace, patience, and love. They're all put on display in the person and work of His Son Jesus, who is sovereign and in control. And God's full weight and character automatically leads to worship, to a blowing you away moment. God is glorious, God is weighty, and so is Jesus. So I don't need to fear other people. I don't need to be controlled by them and what they think. That's the response of seeing God in a healthy fear. Exodus 20, verse 18. When the people saw the thunder and lightning and heard the trumpet and saw the mountain and smoke, they trembled with fear. They stayed at a distance and said to Moses, "Speak to us yourself and we will listen, but do not have God speak to us or we will die." Moses said to the people, "Do not be afraid. God has come to test you so that the fear of God may be with you to keep you from sinning." To fear is to pay tribute, which makes sense to a holy God, but why do I consistently pay tribute and fear others over the weightiness of God? See, that's a lie of the fear of man. And that lie is lived out in our daily lives by exaggerating or being overly self-conscious or self-hate or allowing criticism to just crush us. And for many, it's by being a people pleaser. We can easily get obsessed by the fear of man and what others think about us. Steve Jobs said this, "Remembering that I'll be dead soon is the most important tool I've ever encountered to help me make the big choices in life. Almost everything, all external expectations, all pride, all fear of embarrassment or failure, these things just fall away in the face of death, leaving only what is truly important." You see, the bottom line is this. If you knew you were going to die in 2 weeks, what would be most important? Your retirement account, your bank account, your projects at work, your continued education, how many letters you have beside your name, your boss problems or employee problems, your next workout and how fit you are? No. Where you're going in 2 weeks is the supreme important issue. Where is your eternal destiny? When you strive for the approval of your dad or your wife or your guys at work, that's the fear of man. My question is, do you wrestle with fearing man? Like disappointing your spouse so you don't explain how you really feel, or letting your parents down so you take the easy way out and don't tell the truth. Are you debilitated when you're not accepted by certain segments of your friends? Let me ask you, could you make a list of those whose disapproval you don't want? Let me ask you again, could you make a list of those whose disapproval you don't want?
Yes.
The answer is yes, and that list would be unlimited. That's the fear of man. And you lose the priority of God's glory, His weightiness. We've got to get a bigger view of God. Are you not believing the truth about God, that He is glorious? Because when we fear God, when we worship and respect and trust Him and submit to Him, we get a bigger view of God. And that drives out the fear of man, and that helps close the gap between our head and our heart. Fearing God is the proper response when we get a glimpse of Him. Many of us just haven't recognized that glimpse of Him in a long, long while. So here's what we can do. Here's what I want you to do. Post below in the comments, I will fear God alone. That's a commitment between you and God that you're going to work on not fearing man. Do that right now. I will fear God alone. It's a simple start. And this week I want you to spend time alone with God in nature, Bible, and prayer. That's your homework. You'll learn to trust Him and love Him more than you love and trust in others. And if you'll do these two things, you'll narrow the gap of unbelief between your head and your heart, where what you believe in your head will start to be lived out in your heart where actions take place. And then you'll replace the lie of the fear of man with the truth of fearing God. That will overcome the fear of man. And you'll stop obsessing about others. God is glorious, so I don't need to fear others. And God is great, He's sovereign, so I don't need to be in control. And next week, we're going to talk about my favorite, satisfaction in life, and how to guarantee that you get it. It is possible. But for now, post below, I will fear God alone. And then do your homework and spend time alone with God this week in nature, in the Bible, and in prayer. See, fearing man takes you down a path that leads you away from God. Choose today who you will fear. Until next time.